Hi guys, I hope you're all keeping well. So you're gonna have to bear with me, I'm a little bit of green in this video. I've not been feeling great the last couple of days. There is a 24-hour, 48-hour bug going around. My best friend had it, and needless to say, I am one of the lucky people that has picked it up. So bear with me. So now that I've overshared that with you, which I've got no idea why, but hey, we are a channel that shares and cares. So this video is all to do with books, and I'm gonna start with something that I left out of when I went to Oxford. The shop is called Blackwell's Bookstore, and they have quite a few of them over the UK in different areas. And Oxford is where they have their flagship first ever Blackwell's. And we went in there and I looked at, the historical painting on the wall, and it is a big bookstore, I'll give it that. I mean, I live in bookstores, but this was particularly big. Anyway, I was walking around and then I saw stairs going down. I thought, oh, they've probably got downstairs as well. Also that's fairly normal with a lot of bookstores. I went downstairs and I thought, oh yeah, no, wow, 2 floors. And then I turned and saw this. Oh my dear lordy. I could not believe it. My eyes popped out my head. The amount of people that came down the stairs at the same time as me and went, wow. This place has got over 3 miles of bookshelves. It is truly, it's a sight to behold. So remember, if you're visiting Oxford or you want to go in Oxford, stick your head into that store. It's absolutely mind-blowing. So naturally, being the book lovers that me and my husband are, we decided to buy a book each. So I went and got 1984. It's a book that every book club tells you at some point in your life you're meant to read. So I'm trying to expand my reading knowledge. I had bought Spare Us recently, and again, I've really not got round to that. So it's another one. It's only a very small book. So I think I'll smash that out over the weekend first, and then I can talk to you guys about it next week. Now, strangely, I say strangely, and this will bring me on to a subject that comes up later in the video to do with Harry and Meghan. My husband bought this book. It is called The Amazing Story of the Man Who Cycled from India to Europe for Love. And it sounds lovely, but it's more like something we had role reversal. You'd think he'd be buying 1984 and I would buy this. But then it made me think, why do I think like that? Why do we think like that? Why is it weird for a man to want to choose a romantic comedy? But for women, if we watch an action film, there is still a little bit where role reversal, it's different. We still treat each other slightly differently. And as I said, I will come to that towards the end of this video. So let's get started with royal family members and books. Another book by Srah, the Duchess of York, otherwise known as Fergie, has come out, and she has topped the Times bestsellers list. I mean, this is great for Fergie. I know for some people she's like Marmite, but I actually really like her. A good way to tell if someone is actually a genuinely nice person is to know someone or to speak to someone that's actually cabin crew. These are the people that do not get enough credit. They must have the patience of a saint. When you think of waitressing, and if someone's awful, you can kick them out of the restaurant. When you're in an aeroplane, as tempted as it may be, you cannot kick these people out. So hats off to anyone that does that for a profession. It is, as I said, you must have the patience to put up with anything. But I know when Fergie has flown, people that say they sit next to her, the cabin crew staff say that she's incredibly nice and really friendly. So that's enough for me to like her. Now, Fergie has, obviously, she's still using her title, Duchess of York. She's entitled to use it, even though that she is divorced from Andrew. She is making her own way. I don't think she is cashing in on being a Duchess quite the same as the other two. The big difference is Fergie isn't using her title and simultaneously making money by trashing the royal family. She is not attacking the king. She is not attacking the Queen's legacy. She's not accusing them of racism, of mistreatment, of maligning her. Fergie is actually very nice when she talks about the King and Queen Camilla, who she has recently spoken of very fondly. She's also not bothered about the fact that she's not going to the coronation. That is something that the media, I think, are stirring up. She's well aware of the fact that she is divorced from Andrew and the spaces are limited. And she said that she's going to be more than happy watching it at home on the TV with some sandwiches and some cakes and her bunting up. And I think that just comes across as very gracious. Now, I know the Duchess of York isn't everyone's favourite person. I know there's lots of people that are still angry because of the association with Andrew and then he who shall not be named. And then obviously, she has been caught up in a little bit of controversy herself. But I happen to really like her. I think she comes across as genuinely nice. She's definitely passionate about books. She loves writing children's books as well. I think her famous one is Budgie the Helicopter. She has made quite a few mistakes, but again, are we all so perfect that if our lives were put under a spotlight, can we say that we would live a life of perfection every day? I don't think we would. Now, so let's get on to the main book of points that I said that I was going to bring up, and that is Robert Jobson. Robert Jobson is a royal reporter, royal author, and he has brought out a book called King Charles III, The Man and the Monarch. Now, any royal book that's come out recently, they're coming out thick and fast because people are cashing in on the backlash, the notoriety, and all of the scandals and everything that has obviously happened with the royal family. And mainly because of the interest that is Harry and Meghan. There is a fascination about Harry and Meghan. They are a reality TV show. They are car crash TV. They are something that you know when you shouldn't look, but you want to look. You want to look. You want to see what's going on. It's no different to buying junk magazines that, you know, we go to in a store and we think, do you know what? It's not because I actually care about what these celebrities are up to, but because it's like a fantasy world. You can just tune out to life. And Harry and Meghan seem to live in a fantasy little bubble. And they are pantomime villains to some of us. Even people that don't like them, they read about them because they're like, what have they been up to now? Wow. And this is where I think a lot of these now sudden books that are coming out, people are absolutely jumping on the bandwagon while the attention is on them. However, the attention for Harry and Meghan is definitely more negative. Now, I'll be honest here, I haven't bought Robert Jobson's book, so I can't give a review on it in its entirety, but I have been reading the excerpts that have come out in the newspapers like they normally do. And there's some key things I want to go over because despite me taking a little bit of the mickey out of Robert Jobson, he is credible with some of his contacts. He has been on the royal rota for a long time. I know I showed that picture with him and Omid Scobie. That might have just been a really bad, unfortunate timing. He is like some of the other reporters where he can be a flag in the wind. He's defended Harry and Meghan when I don't think that they deserved any defence. But then he is also now, as I said, maybe it's become more profitable, but he's called them out for a few things. So to start, we had when Meghan joined the royal family, Meghan was offered lady-in-waiting Lady Susan Hussey's help and Sophie, now the Duchess of Edinburgh. Meghan's response to the Queen, giving her one of her trusted, most senior, well, basically lady-in-waiting that's been with the Queen her entire life, and friend and confidant. And then Sophie, her daughter-in-law, who, you know, they had such a close relationship, Meghan said, and I quote, "She has Harry." Well, that worked out well, didn't it? Harry being the intelligent man that he is, the ways of how royal ladies must behave, of course he must have great knowledge on that. Bear in mind that he never taught her how to curtsy, that she'd be expected to curtsy to the Queen. He didn't even teach her who Andrew was, according to Meghan, that she thought that he was the bag boy. Ooh, I bet that's pissed off the Yorks a little bit. And the fact that Harry also didn't teach Meghan the national anthem. In another excerpt, it said that the Queen, it wasn't just that she didn't trust Meghan when the Sandringham summit was carrying on to not record it back in Canada, wherever she was, to not listen in. She apparently had the room swept for bugs. So it goes to show, if this is obviously true, that the Queen at this point, she couldn't even trust her grandson not to bug a meeting room. Another excerpt, Catherine did not go to Balmoral to stop Meghan Markle from going. I find this a little bit controversial because I think it just stirs up this hatred storyline between Meghan and Catherine. Catherine has many reasons to dislike Meghan, but I personally believe the truth that George and Charlotte, being that much older, had just moved house. They had just started their new school. Their great-grandmother has just died and they had a relationship with her, these being the older children. I'm sure Prince Louis did as well, but he was that little bit younger. Catherine wanted to be there for her children rather than what I think it was their first or maybe second day at new school, she would have flown up to Balmoral with William. It must be a tough call when something like that happens, but I'm sure Catherine would put being a mother and there for her children that she's going to have to give them sad news to and support them when they've just gone through this big move to Windsor. In another excerpt, apparently the removal of Harry's dukedom has been discussed at the highest levels. Whilst I believe that certain family members must be so angry at him, the dukedom taking it away from him won't affect anything. There's lots of people saying, oh, well, if they do, then Meghan will call herself Princess Henry. Well, let her call herself Princess Henry. It will make her look even more stupid and hypocritical than what she already does. Let her prance around going, I'm now a princess. Oh, no, wait, hasn't she already done that? In another excerpt, the king reportedly stopped taking Harry's calls after he continuously demanded more money, and when Charles declined, Harry had an explosive argument where he swore at his father. Well, we know that Harry was still receiving payments right up until the beginning of 2020 when they had left. Despite having millions in the bank, Charles was funding and payrolling Harry and Meghan. And then bang, we had the Oprah interview. I mean, convenient timing. I know many of us have never really truly recovered in the horrors when we watched Harry say that as a grown man that his daddy had cut him off and left him to fend for himself and used the millions of pounds that his mother and his great-great-grandmother left him. I mean, and the fact that Charles was giving them like, I think 2-3 million a year up until that point. It's like, well, where have you done with all that money? I suppose Harry's grown up where he doesn't have to spend any of his own money, and that was possibly quite the culture shock to him. Welcome to the real world, Harry. But he's never still, even saying that, he's still not in the real world, because how many of us have got millions and millions and millions of pounds, especially that we've never worked a day in our life for? Now, in the final bullet point, or excerpt that I'm going to talk about in the book, is the fact that the staff reportedly joked that Harry was Meghan's hostage. I think most of the nation thought that and still think that, to be honest with you. Now, there was a photograph that came out a couple of days ago. This was a still, I believe, from video footage. So this is actually Harry, and he does not look well. I think he had been blowing up balloons, to be fair. That's why he looks like he's got a fat top of lip. I think he's just blowing out from exhaustion. Anyone that's had to blow up birthday balloons for kids' parties knows the face. But overall, we're just seeing more and more pictures, more and more footage of Harry, and he does not look well. So this is where at the beginning of the video, I want you to clear your mind for this. We're going to talk about role reversal, and I just want you to honestly digest what I'm saying. I know it will be hard, but just try and clear your mind and give this a go, right? So we're going to talk about Harry and Meghan, but they're not Harry and Meghan. We are going to say that Prince William, the royal family, are still the royal family. Prince William has a younger sister, a princess. We're not going to give her a name. She's just going to be called Princess. Over in Canada on Suits is an American male actor, D-list actor, not many people, unless they were into the show, had heard of, right? This is how we're going to play this game. So you've got the American actor and the princess. They start dating. Turns out that the actor was actually still living with his long-term girlfriend. So then the actor had to contact a couple of magazines when they announced when he and the princess first started dating, and he got them to change it for a couple of months later because it was quite clearly obvious that the two relationships overlapped. Now, can you remember when Edo first started dating Beatrice? He got crucified even though he had broken up with his ex, the mother of his child. Whilst they were still having a strong friendship and rearing their child together, they were living separate lives and have been for some time. So again, straight away, completely different set of rules. So then this actor starts complaining to the princess that he's being followed, he's being harassed at work. Please, can she get someone to do something about it because he's being harassed? So the princess puts out an official palace communication warning people to leave them alone. They wanted their relationship to be private and just about them. But he poses for paparazzi set-up strolls. He starts doing magazine interviews. He does social media posts teasing about their relationship and starts walking around wearing jewellery with the princess's initials on. You'd start to think to yourself, well, he's quite clearly using their relationship to get attention, whilst in the next breath saying that they're being harassed. They are the ones that are phoning the paparazzi and agreeing to do all these interviews. Again, if you started thinking about a man was doing that straight away whilst dating the princesses, I think there would be more people going, no, I smell a rat, this can't be good. Now, this actor, whilst dating the princess, continuously makes leaks about how he is giving everything up for the love of his life. And you think, oh, that's great, but if it's the love of your life, why do you keep talking about everything you're giving up? And as it turns out, he was being written out of the show. He had a rental car and a rental property. Despite trying to sell the story that he was some big Hollywood star, he was an A-lister, he wasn't. And he had absolutely everything to gain by having a relationship with the princess. So after a fairly quick engagement at the interview, he starts talking over the princess. He's very animated. Do you think people would still be going, oh, he's American, he's an actor, that's what they're like? No, people would have been saying, gosh, he's a bit controlling, isn't he? Look at that, he keeps butting in and over talking her. Then stories start coming out how the princess has started cutting off her friends one by one. Anytime any of them have questioned his intentions or their relationship, he then makes the princess change her telephone number. She stops going to social events. She gives up hunting, her hobbies. She starts giving up absolutely everyone. She will only go anywhere with him. Even when they go to dinner parties, they sit and slobber all over each other. And some people be like, oh, that's so romantic. I can tell you there is absolutely nothing romantic about sitting at a dinner party watching two people eat each other's faces. It's incredibly unpleasant for everyone apart from the couple. Plus, know, that's the sort of behaviour you expect when they're teenagers. These are two grown adults. But this way you're seeing it as going, well, no, that's marking your territory. That's being possessive. That is controlling the person that you're with by excluding all of their friends. So then this princess, to keep him happy, changes her lifestyle. She changes telephone numbers, she cuts off lots of her friends that he feels are toxic. This is a major red flag. When you start dating someone, if they start telling you who you can and can't be friends with, what you're to eat, what things to give up, and all you can do is continuously try and make them happy, walk away. This is the start of an abusive relationship. Then when it comes to the wedding, he starts making demands and dictating who can come. Her childhood friends are not allowed to come to the evening party. Certain people aren't even invited to the wedding at all. In fact, he invites lots of A-listers that he's never even met before to come to the wedding. And you'd think to yourself, okay, what is this? Is this a romantic wedding to celebrate your love? Or is this purely for him to have a networking event, to line himself up some contracts maybe at a later date? So in the run up to this wedding, more stories start coming out that how they met may not have actually been that romantic and purely by chance. He had been visiting the UK, going to the same bars, making friends that are in the same social circles, going to places that he knows that's where the princess would hang out. He even signs up to an agency to make him look more of a humanitarian, literally months before he manages to get a date with the princess. Would people still be going, oh, that's so romantic? No, you wouldn't. You'd be saying, red flag, he stalked her. So the closer that the wedding gets and the more friends and family members that start expressing their concerns, he turns the princess against all of her family. Her brother that she once loved and was close with, absolutely anyone that tries to intervene and says, slow it down a little bit. Now, literally straight after the wedding, his polite demeanour that you always saw in front of the cameras started to change. He began pushing his way in front of the princess, cutting her off mid-conversations when she's talking to people. He starts pulling her about by her arm and away from people when she's still talking to people. Even at big royal engagements, that it's actually her event, he is the one that's got the microphone in his hand. He is the one that is doing speeches. You start to notice every time we see the princess that her sparkle, her cheeky laugh, everything's replaced with a scowl or a nervous look, trailing behind her husband. Soon she seemed to become angry at everyone, her entire family, everyone that had ever loved and protected her. The more she isolated herself and she pushed her husband to the front of her royal life, the more miserable she became. Now, not long after that marriage, it turns out that he had broken down to the princess. He was desperately unhappy and wanted to leave for America. And if he didn't leave the royal family and she didn't come with him, he was going to kill himself. Would everyone still be saying, oh, his mental health, I mean, that must have been absolutely awful? Or were people saying that is actually a very, very nasty manipulative trick that is used by abusers to control their partners? So anyway, they decide behind the royal family's back, they're going to pack up and leave. They make huge deals with streaming giants, millions of pounds coming in, book deals, and most importantly, it was all around trashing her family. He had convinced the princess that despite everything they had managed to accumulate from freebies from her family that had set them up in free homes, luxury holidays, world-class travel, security, millions of pounds being given to them, wardrobes of designer clothes, that they were now going to do a TV circuit and a book circuit and a podcast circuit to make money in trashing the very family that loved her and, more importantly, welcomed him in the beginning. The princess gives up everything she ever knew and loved, hobbies, friends, charities she worked with, family members, all to make her husband happy. Several years later, the princess is a shadow of her former self. She looks drugged, unhealthy, angry, unstable, full of resentment and bitterness towards everyone who had ever loved her back home. She's paranoid, she's isolated, she seems to be attacking her family with a bitter vengeance that just seems to be getting worse and worse the longer that she stays away with her family, and she is completely enclosed in her husband's new world. Now, do you think on Oprah, if he'd have sat there after doing all of that, they would have had the sympathy and the empathy, the public outcry that they did for Meghan, cruel royal family, what they did to her? No, you wouldn't. Everyone would have been screaming for the rafters saying this is an abusive, controlling, coercive relationship. So that's why I say with the gender reversal, it changes the narrative into something far more sinister that I think is harder to digest for people. So when people are saying Charles should completely cut Harry off, he should completely shut the door on him, excommunicate him, would you be saying the same if that was his daughter and you knew that his daughter was in an unhappy and unhealthy relationship? I don't think as many people would be so quick to judge. Now, I am not saying that Meghan is some sort of evil high priestess, voodoo, black magic witch. I am not saying that Harry is a victim. It's very clearly obvious that Harry has had this bitterness, this need for vengeance, this childish immaturity, every single aspect that we have now seen come out of Harry that we dislike, I believe has always been there. But I do believe rather than bringing out the best in her husband, Meghan has nurtured all of the negative things about her husband, from his paranoias to things he was upset about as a child. And I think he has been encouraged to bring these to the surface. So someone, and I really wish I remembered who it was, they posted it in my comments, and I'm going to use your comment to finish this. Whilst Harry is the one that is firing the bullets, Meghan is the one that loaded the gun. And in many ways, again, I don't see Harry as a complete victim here. I think they're toxic to each other in both ways. I don't think Harry's brought out the nicer side to Meghan, in all honesty, either. Two peas in a pod, maybe. But I think it's quite obvious to people. And in my opinion, I think it's a very unhealthy and toxic relationship. And the more I see photos of Harry, there is a pang of me that I think to myself, and that's why I wanted to throw it to you guys and hear your thoughts on it. If Harry really was a princess and the other way round, do we think that people would be so quick to judge, or do you think that more people might be more open to saying, yeah, he possibly needs help rather than being cut off by his family? So as I said, it was a bit of an open your brain to that one. And I know many of you would be like, no, hell no, he deserves it, even if he was a princess. Some of you might say that he's being a bit of a princess already. But regardless to that, as I said, it was just food for thought. And I shouldn't say food really. So on that note, I will be back with you very soon. I will be working on this video today. Lots of media, as you can see, goes into it. So these ones can sometimes be longer, but I will hopefully chat to you this evening once it goes live in the comments, and I will be back with you very soon where I want to talk about brand Meghan. So I will see you guys later. Bye.